how do I run Linux on Windows? This is kind of an implied question. Somebody asked how to run Lynx on Windows 10. You can go watch a video about that. Lynx is the text-based browser that I use all the time. And it's one of the reasons you might actually want to use Linux just a little bit on your Windows. Because why? Because maybe you want to join the text-based browser generation. Maybe not. Maybe you want to stay in the Linus Does Tech GUI, terminal haters generation. Up to you. But, make the choice. But if you want to do it, Linux subsystem for Windows. Okay, yeah, so you're getting ahead of me here. That's actually one of the ways. So there's the standard answer here is not my preferred way to do it at all. But I'm going to tell you because this is what you're going to read. When you Google this, the first thing you're going to see is this. Install WSL2. All right? And use that. All right, so WSL2 is the Windows subsystem for Linux, and I'm not going to get into it. You can search it and do all your thing. Okay, a couple things about WSL2 you need to understand, and I need to be able to have to tell you this because I have to qualify my answer later about why I don't like it. First of all, I still think you have to install it. You can't get away from Windows if you're going to do anything on the terminal these days. There are a lot of reasons to use PowerShell and to want to use PowerShell, and I personally actually need to learn PowerShell still. I know you can't believe I just said that, but I actually do think PowerShell is worth learning, if for no other reason than to hack Windows machines. You got to learn it. Chad's here. You're wanting to see the shark jump. We'll do it in a bit. All right, fine. You want me to jump the shark right now in the middle of the video that's on YouTube? YouTube's gonna grab this and go, what the fuck? There's this jumping in the shark. It's kind of a private joke on this channel or whatever you want to call it. So we have to run that anyway. That's jumping the shark. If you don't know what it is, Google it. No, Google it. Search it. I've been trying to ban myself from using Google as a verb because it's not the only one. I don't even use it. I use DuckDuckGo or whatever. Back to the topic at hand. WSL2. So Fonzie, yes. So they don't even know who Fonzie is. Arthur Fonzarelli, thank you very much. WSL2 is eventually you'll be able to run that stuff, by the way. I'm going to activate that so you can do this command in Twitch, blah, 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 even if I'm streaming. How's it going? Potato chips. Lips potato chips. Install WSL2 and use that. All right, so that's the fastest way to do it. I can't demo that here because it's a little bit hard. A couple things to know about WSL2 that I'm just going to give you really quickly. So WSL2 is not Windows. It's actually legit 2. WSL2. You can go watch the conferences on this. I spent hours and hours and hours watching all the conferences about how WSL2 came to be. It was the same conference, by the way, where they came out with the good Windows terminal, the new one that actually supports, curses and emojis and ligatures and all kinds of fancy stuff. And Fonz is Gen X, hell yeah. Actually, he's a boomer himself. Yeah, the Fonz is Gen X. True story. So people are confused. Install WSL2. WSL2 is actually Linux. It's a Linux kernel that runs in tandem next to the Windows kernel. The Microsoft Linux team did some pretty amazing things. They've got it directly talking to the kernel, and they've also got over some humps with the file system, which you kind of got to be careful for because some of the stuff that's in the Windows file system is still read-only or has fucked up weird permissions, and WSL2 can be confusing in that sense. I actually did a video once upon a time about using Git-Bash, which we used to use before. Git-Bash is not Linux. It's Bash on Windows, using just Windows. But it feels like Linux, but it's not. Okay, just so you know. WSL2 is the other one. So the other way to get Linux on Windows is to install a virtual machine. Machine engine, I guess. And the one to use here is VirtualBox. It's free. It's owned by Oracle. It was not made by Oracle, thank God. I wouldn't use it if it did. I have no love for Oracle. Install a virtual. I'm sorry, say sayonara Oracle sponsorship. I don't do that anyway. So install a virtual machine, VirtualBox. If you want a funny take on Oracle, go find Last Miles and ask him about Oracle. Dennis, have you ever seen his video about that? He has like a standard video he plays every time. I'm not going to spoil it. You got to go find him. He's an amazing person and YouTuber, streamer now. He kind of wanders all over because he gets banned everywhere. Is this how to install Linux without Windows on dual boot? Yes, that is what we're talking about. So we're not. No, we're talking about running Linux on Windows. How about this? How about Linux in Windows? How about that? The Larry video. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. It's like tribal knowledge for the rest of us. Everyone else can be. They can have FOMO. I don't care. They'll have to go find him and find out what it is. I'm not going to give it away. All right. So install WSL2 and use that. Install virtual machine VirtualBox. So VirtualBox is a thing that people use. I actually have it here. You can. I used to run Windows in VirtualBox on my Mac. I mean, yes, you can do that too. Or a virtual machine is not a real machine that you can run inside of another machine. The end. And there's lots of reasons for using it. The entire cloud revolution is built on that and containers, which we won't get into. But you should, if you want to get into tech, you should definitely understand the difference there. So we're going to do this virtual box. If I can spell it right, I can't. I am so. Where's my coffee? VMware Workstation. Oh, I forgot I have that on there. VMware Workstation is a pro tool that you can get. It costs lots of money, but you know, Oracle's the free one. So, and here we go. Should we do it? Should we run one? Yeah. A new version of VirtualBox has been released. Okay. So, Kubernetes. So let's run Talos, shall we? I wonder if it's actually running. So this is a version of Linux that's installed inside of Linux. You can actually install Windows inside of here, I'm telling you. So this is a tiny little version of Linux that's running inside of my other Linux, right? Ooh, look, it's booting up and everything. Virtual machines are really good for breaking things. So if you want to see somebody break stuff all the time for the sake of good, you know, Gamozo on Twitch, when he streams, he does this. He'll go in there and he'll break Windows machines to find out how to hack them, to find 0 days and stuff. So that's why you might want to run a VirtualBox. Now, there's some disadvantages of doing this, obviously. Okay, I'm using PopOS because it just works. So that doesn't look like it's working, but you know. So this, if you're going to use a virtual machine, let me just give you the overview, like really fast overview. Oh fuck! It took over my. You know what it did? It took over my keyboard. God damn it! It did. It took over my keyboard. Right control. Where is it? I always don't forget to look at it because it'll like take over. This is an actual Linux machine. It's just virtual. Does that make sense? Actual is kind of real. It's not real. It's real, but not real. Is that what I'm saying? So this is, but it has disadvantages. Let me give you the disadvantage. First of all, it's fucking bloated. When you make a new one, you have to like sign off on like 2 of your CPUs or something, and I don't have that many. Here's my NeoFetch. You guys want to see this? Somebody's asked me about my OS. I'm running Pop OS. Here's my. I got the MSR. Is that right? I said right. So it's just a standard gaming rig from Best Buy, right? And we'll talk about NFT. Yeah, 20 days has been running for a while. Even with streaming and gaming and everything is still running because Linux resolutions I have available. Blah blah blah. I'm running GNOME. I have a lot of packages. Probably. Do I? I guess I do. Yeah, G packages. You know why? Probably because of Docker and stuff. I don't know. I don't know why. I just have a lot. So anyway, this is my current setup, and in reasons. But what I wanted to show you, so I don't have time to do it for it. Maybe we'll do a different video. But when you use a virtual machine, you have to power off. Okay. When you create a virtual machine, you have to like dedicate a certain amount of memory and a certain 28 and a certain amount of RAM and CPU. You have to like, this CPU cannot work, you know, and it'll show you. So I actually, this is what I was going to show you. So here's top, and the cooler version of this is H top. So here's all my actual cores. I've got 8 cores, and I had swap turned off so I can do Docker and stuff. That's RAM and all this stuff. This is all the stuff's running. What I'm trying to get at is if you were to use a VM, when the VM is running, you have to give it at least 1 core, and that core can't be used by the underlying operating system. Now, that's not completely accurate. The virtualization technology has gotten better at sharing CPUs and with the VMs and stuff. I don't want to get into it. I don't even really fully understand the modern uses of virtual machines for that kind of thing. But just suffice it to say, this is more bloated than WSL2. However, you should learn how to do it anyway because there's lots of ways to do it. You can try. This is the only way on Windows to try Linux out, to try it before you buy it. And this is one that I suggest people do this before anything else. First of all, WSL2, even though they have graphics application support now, WSL2 is just a Linux terminal. That's it. It's just a Linux terminal, right? So so you probably should ask yourself, do you want graphics with that? You know what I mean? Because if you want graphics with it, or just a terminal, and when I recommend people use Linux, I am telling them to just use a terminal because that's where all the power is. I don't give a shit about i3 or Window Manager or Unix Prawn on, Linux Prawn on Reddit. Although most beginners do. In fact, I've watched multiple beginners that I've helped over the years, with my company and everything. Just use this, and they install. Cygwin is not Linux. That doesn't no. Cygwin is not Linux. So we do need to mention it though. So let's call also rans, whatever that means. Cygwin. So Cygwin is not Linux. All right. Git-Bash is not Linux. I need to make sure people understand. Was it min whatever? That's what Git-Bash uses anyway. So just know that they're not Linux. Don't let people sell that to you. It's not. It feels like Linux, but it's not Linux, and you're gonna get burned by that. Okay. So honestly, I think a virtual machine for most people, mingw. Yeah, it's mingw. Thank you for that, programmer Frank. I can rely on you for that. So mingw is not Linux. Yeah. All right. So, where was I? All right. So what I'm trying to say here is, Oracle VM Virtual Machine VirtualBox is the best way for most beginners to try Linux, hands down. Hands down. Try it before you buy it. You might not even know if you want to be a Linux person, right? You want to try Pop! OS? Go download the install image. I almost want to do it right now. You know what? Maybe we'll make a video about that. Go download the image, the installation, flash drive image. You have to be able to burn an image onto a flash drive, or just pop it into this virtual, flash drive and then load from it, and you can install it yourself. It goes really fast. The benefit of that is you can install anything that will run on this hardware, which does not include Mac operating systems. People have tried amazing things, but you can't really get that. And then you can run Linux. You can try all the different ones here. You want to try Arch? Fine. You want to try Linux Mint Cinnamon? Fine. You want to try Lubuntu, Xubuntu? You want to try, Manjaro? You want to try Element OS? You can have like a dozen different virtual machines, and you just turn that one off and then try the other one. I'm telling you, if you're a beginner, get VirtualBox and have fun and learn it. And by the way, while you're learning it, all those skills that you're learning about how to get an image to run and install it and everything, all of that skill directly translates to professional employable skills, because understanding how to use a virtual machine and how to manipulate it to your advantage to test different things is not only a really good tool to have, it's a fucking requirement to get some of the higher end security certifications from OSCP, for example, not from Offensive Security, because the OSCE requires you to have 13, 16 cores and know how to use a virtual machine, because this is how you put Windows on there and trash it so that you can find out all of its errors and stuff. So install a VirtualBox and learn that for Linux. Now, there is one last thing that I'm going to talk about that is not a virtual machine, and you cannot really call yourself a technologist until you understand the difference between what I've been telling you about and the next thing. So you have, we're talking about running Linux in Windows. We're not talking about throwing away Windows and dual booting, right? So also runs. We are not talking about dual booting, okay? About dual booting. I suggest against dual booting, by the way. It will make you be very sad. A lot of people do it, me too, but it will make you sad. The one day that you do an upgrade and it blows your whole disk drive away and you're like, what? I've seen this too many times, and I'm not the only one. You can ask other people and they'll tell you the same. This is not in Windows. This is anyway, so that's not the same thing. We're also, we're not, let's say, dual booting, not dual booting. So I actually don't think you should. So not installing onto bare metal, right? So bare metal, that's not running Linux in Windows. That's running Linux on hardware, which is awesome, and you should do it. And you should buy yourself one of those $200 Walmart specials that Linus Does Tech, talks about. And that's actually one of his better videos. And you should go over there and buy that and put Linux on that, and then you can do all of your distro hopping, which is what people do. And you should distro hop. You should distro hop like crazy. Don't trust people on YouTube and everything. Like, make your own decision. And also know that a lot of the recommendations on YouTube and Twitch are not based on employability. They're based on hobbyists. So if you want to get employable and you're going to pick a Linux distro, pick a Debian base, Debian, Red Hat, or SUSE. Those are the 3 top distributions used by the enterprise community in the world that will get you 110K job starting salary by learning how to do them. There is no arch there at all. The only place there's arch is Valve, according to what I'm being told, and then you'd have to be kind of an edgy. If you still want to install Arch to understand Linux, fine, but you won't understand package managers and stuff that are going to get you a job and a certificate if you want. So learn one of those top 3 distros, top 3 enterprise distros. Ubuntu is the number 1 cloud distro. I middle fingered that one. Red Hat, and by Red Hat I mean for you, you're not going to be able to run Red Hat because you got to buy it. It's crazy. I know it's Linux, right? For Red Hat, you're going to have to run Arch is the emo distro. So number 2, you're going to want to run, you can do, I guess that's a fair one. It's not in Windows though. So we're going to say also runs, right? Not ssh-ing into remote Linux host. So these don't count because they're not Linux in Windows. There are really great ways to get a Linux terminal and command line, but they're not running Linux in Windows, right? NixOS, yes, a little bit. Yeah, I want to try it more. Kaiser, SUSE, yeah. So anyway, I think we covered it, right? We talked about distros. We actually should do distros. We'll do a distro video after this. Let me do a distro video after this. Remind me to do that. Okay. So this last recommendation is what I tested in 2021 in the beginner boost. I was with a little bit of trepidation because first of all, I didn't know how to use Docker at the time at all. And I was a little worried about how hard it was going to be to have beginners do this. But this is my recommendation. Install Docker Desktop or Minikube. Okay, so what is this? I'm actually going to show you this. I'm going to spend a little time showing you this because this is my number 1 recommendation, particularly for beginners. You can go out here and find Docker Desktop. Docker Desktop, as of 2 weeks ago, is now proprietary software that you have to pay for if you are using it in any kind of business capacity. So that caused me to look at alternatives. The really great thing about Docker Desktop is that it runs on Mac, Windows, and now Linux. They're going to put it on Linux. You don't need it on Linux, obviously, because you can install Docker C, apt-get docker-ce, done. You don't have to do Docker Desktop. So Desktop gives you this. It's actually written in .NET or Java or some shit, but it's useful and it's easy to put on Windows. It's like one MSI install. Right? Even if your Windows machine, which I have like right here, you're forced to use a Windows machine at work, you can put Docker Desktop on your locked down Windows machine for work, if you have admin rights, obviously. And it doesn't need Windows Pro, does it? Does it need Windows Pro? Please don't tell me that's true. Is that true? I hate that that's true. I want that to not be true. Make it not true. I don't know. Maybe that's why it works for me. I don't know. It does? Fuck. Well, there you go. That can't be true. Docker Desktop does not require, I can't possibly require Windows Pro. God, it's such a racket. Well, yet another reason to possibly use another option, which is a little bit harder to use, is something called Minikube. So Minikube is a project from the Kubernetes cloud world, which is very complicated. I'm not suggesting you dive in as a beginner with this. It's just my website. No, it's put 820. No, I don't do that. So what this does is, so you install Minikube. It's an actual project to get, and it uses a virtual machine, and it will. The crazy thing about Minikube is, you actually, this is why I put the other one first. You have to install VirtualBox or something like it. If you're on a Mac, you have to install Hyper-V or HyperKit. But you have to install a virtual machine manager, like we just talked about, before you can use it. But then once, and at that point, if you're just trying to get Linux on it, you already have it. So you really don't need to use Minikube. But if you want Docker on your, desktop, and you don't want to get Docker Desktop for whatever reason, this is a different video probably, you can use it. But Minikube is an alternative to Docker Desktop. But you're asking me, I'm telling you about Docker Desktop because you want Linux, right? And here's why. When you put Docker Desktop on your desktop, you automatically get a command line, and you can just use it. And you have to know how to use your terminal. So you probably need to install, so you'll need to install, what is it called? Install MS Windows Terminal first, right? And because you need this to do stuff, right? And once you install that, and if you probably should install WSL2 anyway, probably should install anyway, all right? Same with this one. But the fastest, I found that for a beginner, the fastest thing they can do, literally, if you're an absolute beginner, you've never done anything with a terminal, step 1, download Docker Desktop, and step 2, click on the MSI and take all the defaults and install it. And step 3, open a terminal and do your first terminal command, docker run Ubuntu or whatever. And then you get stuff like this. You get docker run it. We're going to remove the image, and we're just going to do Ubuntu. So now I have Ubuntu, right? If I pretend like I'm on a command line on Windows right now, I'm on Linux, obviously. This is the cool thing about Docker is it works on anything. So you want to do Kali Linux? Fine. How about Arch Linux? Arch Linux, boom. They got your Arch Linux, all right? You want to do Kali Linux? Which one's Kali? I can't remember. Is it Kali Linux? I forget what's the Kali Linux repo? Somebody get it for me. I think it's Kali Linux /Linux. It's like some weird ass thing. It's some weird name. I don't remember it. Damn it. What is the Kali Linux? Kali Linux is a Linux hacker. Script Kiddie's like. What is Kali Linux? Kali Linux Docker image. Is it Kali rolling? Thank you, Lucenti. God, you're fast. You're so fast with those links. You're like, did I pay you today? You are so fast. All right, so here we go. Kali Linux, Kali dash rolling. This is the name of this. All this stuff is on hub.docker.io. Kali Linux. Fuck. Did I? There we go. Watch, check. So it's downloading all of Linux, and you get the cool Kali Linux, like unnecessarily large prompt, which doesn't come with Nmap installed, which really confused me. Like, you went to all the problems to do Docker. The thing you need about Docker is that Docker images are small and minimal by design. And if you're trying to learn Linux for the first time, this is really awesome. You know why? Because you have to learn how to install stuff on the first day. Like, well, I don't want to install stuff. I just want to use it. And then you're not using the right operating system. Linux is built on customization and building things. It's what the world is built on, frankly. And if you don't like it, that's you're in the wrong operating system. Use something else. So as it is, it's a Tinker's OS, and you need to go into it that way. A lot cooler than the Pop OS prompt. Yeah, and so it's all MS Windows Terminal first, and then install Docker Minikube, and so yeah, and then Docker Minikube, and then any Linux image, and you can do any Linux image in like an instance. So if you want to distro hop without the distro, and you just want to get a sense of what the command line's like, or you want to practice Pac-Man for some reason, you can do it. You can do it with Docker using just the terminal. But if you're really obsessed with window managers and stuff like that and desktop, which I am not, you can do a virtual machine and do a virtual. Either way, if you're going to get into Linux, you probably should know about all of this stuff, because all of it is going to become useful at some point. But if you're just like laser focused on, I need a command line stat, you can try one of these non-install Linux options. You could probably do WSL, would be the fastest way to get a command line right away. You still need Windows Terminal, by the way. So let's make sure that's there. And you just go to the store and install. And then, do you want graphics? You might as well, you have to have the terminal no matter what. So, and then you install a virtual machine if you want to, play around and stuff. Core files, in other words, can you make experiments and run of yourself? Absolutely. So there's a really great question. So one of the reasons to use a virtual environment, using a VM or a container, any Linux container. You have to know the difference between a container and a VM. I'm not going to talk about it right now. Using any Linux or container allows you to experiment with the root passwords and stuff. Allows you to fully experiment. And this is why it's so great for education, particularly Docker. I do this all the time. I'm like, I can't remember if I have VI on Alpine, or does Arch, which version of Arch does VI use, or do I want to practice using NVim, which is, the BSD version of VI that doesn't have all the stuff that Vim or NeoVim has. Or if I want to play NeoVim, but I don't want it to fucking touch my machine ever again. Run it in a container and see if you like it. Try it out, from the command line, and then throw your command line away. You want to practice all those really dangerous root installation commands? Install a VM or a container. It's really the way to go, particularly on Windows. In fact, it's so efficient to do this now, particularly with WSL2, that some people, hardline Linux people, are using Windows. True story. I'm going to get punched for saying that. 70% of the Azure cloud is running Linux. In fact, Microsoft has their own version of Linux now, their own distro. So Microsoft has a whole department. They pretty much bought SUSE. They didn't, but they make regular commits to the kernel. The point I'm trying to make is it's not 1990s anymore, right? It's not your daddy's or 1990s. It's Microsoft. It's a different Microsoft. And yeah, I mean, another option here, of course, is to not run Linux and just keep Windows. If you're going to do any of this stuff, by the way, I don't suggest, obviously you can't game in a virtual machine inside Linux, inside Windows. You actually can if you use VMware. I did that. I played Dota 2. No, I played Windows-only games using a virtual machine, VMware, on back in 2013, I did this. You don't need to do it anymore because there's all kinds of compatibility things. And we actually did a video on that. So if you want to watch that, you can, click on a couple buttons and get Witcher on your Linux machine, even though it's not supposed to run there. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Is it Flat Car Linux? Is that the one that they bought? Yeah. So anyway, it's been a longer video than I thought, but this is a really popular question. People ask me all the time how to get Linux on Windows. I'm going to use this to refer to. I'm going to say, hey, go watch this. And make the decision. I didn't do any demonstrations of how to do this, mostly because I want you to do it. I want you to do it. And when you get stuck, come on in here and we'll help you out, here or anywhere. There's lots of places you can go to get help. And we'll help you. You're going to do more learning if you do it on your own, right? But the really exciting thing is that every single option that I've told you here is going to allow you to try it before you buy it and to experiment and to play around. You want to play around with i3 or this thing, and then you want to have like a pseudo intellectual fight about the best window manager, which just proves you don't know anything about what Linux is actually used for. But if you do want to do that, you can, and then you can like, hey, well, I saw this, or you're on, what is it, Linux? Where's the link for Linux porn? Anybody? I can't search for this in the graphic browser safely. So, is it our Linux porn? Okay. So Reddit is a place that people go to do things, not me, and I understand it's a really, people like it. So I'll tell you about it. You can go to Reddit. I don't use it. I swear to God, I don't. I tried and I was like, no, I cannot do this. I cannot. It's just, no. Is it Unix porn or is it Linux porn? I think there's both. So, people come over here and they think this is like it, but I got to tell you, I'm full disclosure. When I first encountered Linux and realized I could run whatever I wanted in any way, it's extremely addicting. It's like discovering the internet for the first time. Watching the boost help you learn Linux. Oh, that's cool. And you're testing stuff in a safe environment. Awesome. Thanks for saying so. Toto Alpina. That's a great name. So again, you're going to see this stuff. Oh my God, I want that. Why do you want that? Because you want to be different. You know what? Because you have a choice. Apple's like, hey, I'm so cool. I'm Apple. I'm an Apple user. And then like PC is uncool because they're nerdy and shit, right? And then you got Linux users who are just like, yeah, that's cute. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And you can't even. That's awesome. You have fun with that. And we don't get mean. Do we? We don't get mean like I did. Even if we're attacked. Even if we're attacked and people say, why on earth would you want to do that? You send them to Unix porn and say, that's the proper reaction. and then you have to deal with like all the cultural separation in the Linux community, right? So I mean, come on, this is fucking sexy. I mean, let's just admit it. Am I over my F-bomb quota for YouTube videos? I think I am. I have to stop saying it. Just got back to the Linux for the first time on bare metal. Oh yeah, we're not talking about Linux on bare metal. We're talking about, being curious, Linux curious. You're like, you're not gonna go all the way. Let's say you're not gonna go all the way. You're just gonna take Linux out for a good time. And you're gonna dance and see if Linux has the moves you want. And, you get on the dance floor and you're like, God damn. If Linux can move like that, I wonder what Linux can do when I'm using it all the time. I had to. I apologize. It was a joke. I'm sorry. So then you're like looking at it, and you're going, oh my God. And then you can't decide because you just that's what she said. So we're going to talk about that. So look at this. You got all these different Linux seizes. And look at, there's even Pedro. I don't like Pedro. Sorry. You can hate on me if you want. I don't like him. Because he stands for stuff I don't agree with. I would rather they put Che Guevara on there. Che Guevara is fucking awesome. God, I'm definitely over my F-bomb quota. Manjaro can bite me. I fucking hate Manjaro. Oh, look. C-Matrix. Get on my level. Get on my level. It's all about the T-Matrix, people. It's about the T-Matrix, not the C-Matrix, as I've been told. You got to put the kanji characters. It's no fun. This coffee is so good. All right. So I think this video is done. You got the point, right? Linux is awesome. You can run it in Windows. You can take it out. You can test it. You can see which one you might want to, speed date. You can speed date with Linux in a VMware. Yeah. Or you can speed date with just a terminal. And speed dating with just a terminal is like speed dating with everybody were naked in the room. That's true. I just hit on a metaphor that's totally accurate. Where can you find T-Matrix? First, you have to have Linux. I will talk about it later, not on this video. I swear I'll let you know. So indulge me, please, later. So, oh God, look at that. Oh my God. So, that's like, blah, 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 blah. That's me right there. This is me, like a bunch of useless terminals all next to each other. I just think this is so funny because everybody, particularly beginners. Okay. I've been doing Linux since 94. My first Linux was Mach Linux. I installed it on a PowerPC Mac. And I went through all of this. This is all very nostalgic. Like 25 years ago, I went through all this obsession with the desktop and everything. And I did it. Everybody does it. They make their Linux look like something from the Matrix, and it has useless stats about your CPU that are actually causing your CPU to slow down, and stuff that you never look at, but you just want to show somebody else someday, until you realize you don't need any of that. You just need the fucking terminal, and then you're like, oh, but it's still fun, right? That's why I install Pop! OS. People wonder why distro I use Pop! OS because it just works. Everything just works. OBS just worked. You have to understand that's saying something. The reason that I use Pop! OS is because they build their OS for hardware all the time, and they are constantly maintaining it. Can't really say that about all the other Linux distros, unfortunately. And that's kind of the problem with Linux. And I'm not going to get into that, but my vampire friends, my Linux looks like this. Oh boy, I don't even want to look, Frank. No, that's like sending me a dick pic. I don't want to. It kind of is. All right, so Cinnamon Tokyo Night. Something simple. Can you tell that I love Terminus font? Yeah. Oh, look at this. I'm all minimal now. I have a background thing. So Unix porn. Oh, look, we have a random like sound wave thing. I should probably put that on my stream. So anyway, no compositor, no borders, no nonsense. Song gap. Open Susie Tumbleweed. Get on my level, says this person. Yeah. Well, yeah. Everybody's different. Get on my level. I like just plain old fucking Groovebox. I don't care about the rest. So yeah. So there you go. Go to our Unix porn and do it. Every single person I've ever helped get into Unix and Linux for the first time, they all do the same thing. Like the person who used the internet for the first time. You don't understand this because you've always had the internet. You're not a Gen X like me. But we browsed the internet for like 10 hours straight when it first came out, not just porn. It was like so interesting. So this is what you're going to end up doing. You're going to be putting like Linux all the time, every day. You're going to come back with a new one. And you're going to settle on one that you like eventually, and that's fine. It's based on your needs. And I told you the distros that I recommend. I recommend distros based on Debian, based on a Red Hat derivative, CentOS and Fedora and stuff. You'll figure that out on your own. And based on SUSE, but primarily Ubuntu and Debian-based distros. Ubuntu is Debian, by the way. So Debian is the grandfather of Ubuntu. Ubuntu, is the sort of corporate child, bastard child. It's like if Debian had sex with Microsoft, you would get Ubuntu, sort of, in terms of like proprietariness. And you probably don't know what that means, but once you get into the Linux world, you're going to actually understand what's up with that. So have fun. That's all I have to say about that. And find your own way. Come back and report. Put your comments in the YouTube thing down there. I'm doing that whole YouTuber thing now. So put your comments there, but more importantly, share it in the Discord. Now you can't put pictures in there anymore because we got trolled really badly. It was really bad. But you can put links to things to that. Share, have fun, make comparisons, whatever you want to do. As for me and mine, I'm happy with the terminal, so I stick with the containers. But you need to learn VirtualBox anyway. It's been a pretty long video, but hopefully that helps. All right. See ya. If I can't even repeat that. My stream is off the chart today.